So I'm going to talk just a little bit about some things that's handy to have before you embark down your website redesign project. Um, so personas, and if you're unfamiliar with what a persona is sort of a fictional person you create in your mind and you document that represents your audience, right? Who is your audience? So of course, if you're trying to make a website for everyone, it's not going to really function for anyone that well. So you want to really dial in your design, your content, everything, right? Based around your audience. Branding and style documents that really define your style and your fonts and your official colors and your official logo and everything. So when you get to that design phase, you have that ready. And then a quick note about teams and roles. It's very helpful for websites if you have really on your end in your organization sort of a leader, like a one single decision maker, right? So what can stall a website redesign project really is when you have to get like 15 people to sign off on, what the design is going to look like, or what the page structure is going to be, or what content's going to be on this page. If you can really have someone in your organization put in charge of approving, making decisions, like moving the project forward, right? So I've seen that stall things. So I asked if you guys have personas and brand guides. It looks like about a third say you do. That's awesome. They're very helpful. And I'm going to actually give you a toolkit. I'm going to show you a toolkit we have, which you're going to be able to download for free. It's going to come in the follow-up email. And if you don't have things like a persona or a style guide or a brand voice guide, it actually has worksheets in it for you to start filling that out and kind of building it. So it looks like about a third of you say you don't have personas and a brand guide. So you could take advantage of that toolkit for sure. All right, so preparing for a redesign, I just mentioned this toolkit, and there'll be a couple pages I'll show you in there. And also, this is just the cover of it. So it's basically a marketing and kind of communications strategy toolkit. So it has things in it like the persona guide and a brand style voice guide, and like page worksheets for filling out to develop the content for a web page, right? All that kind of stuff. Some SEO guidance in there. So I'll show you a couple things from that, but that'll be freely available for you to download. So we're going to talk a bit, about your current site, right? And feel free, of course, ask questions anytime as things come up. So how do you evaluate your current site? How do you do that? I'm going to talk about a few things here. Of course, analytics and search review. You want to look at your Google Analytics, and you want to look at how you show up in search engines. I'm assuming everyone here wants their site found easily in search engines, right? You want to review the design. What about your current design works? What doesn't work? Are there problems with it? And reviewing your current site content, right? Because most of the time people are bringing over some content from their old site. They're not just, blowing it all away. So what do you want to look at for that? So that's kind of the things we're going to go through. And I'll show you a couple tools right now we're going to use. I'll just show you kind of my quick sort of toolbox of stuff for my browser here. So here's my browser that's set up, and I have a bunch of tools we're going to go through. Let me just get rid of that. So the first thing is I have a screen capture tool. I'm using the Chrome browser, which pretty much most people are, I think, now. I have a screen capture tool that called Go Full Page that captures an image of a full page screenshot, so it even scrolls to the bottom. It's kind of handy if you want to get an image of your whole web page to show it to someone or mark up or make notes on. This is the Google Tag Assistant. If you use Google Tag Manager a lot, and I highly recommend you all use it, it's really great for custom analytics and tracking button clicks and video plays and different things all in one place. And this basically, when you turn it on, it shows you the tags. It basically shows you what Google is doing in the background. Is Google Analytics installed? Is the remarketing tag for Google AdWords installed? All those different things. This is a resizing thing, window resizer. So if you want to see what does my web page look like at a specific resolution, you can punch that in and see that. Word counter. This lets you just highlight text on a page, gives you the count of words. It's really nice because when you get into things like SEO, if you want a web page to be found in search engines, you kind of have a certain minimum amount of content you have to have on the page. So that's handy. That's just my HubSpot plugin. This is a thing that converts pages to web pages to PDFs, so you can do that. This is a Crazy Egg plugin for tracking UX stuff, and I'm going to show you Crazy Egg a little bit. It's a tool we use. This is the Facebook Pixel Helper for the Facebook kind of analytics stuff. This is a color picker, so it lets you get an eyedropper and then click on a web page anywhere, and kind of see exactly what color that is. That's nice for designing and working on web pages. And so that's kind of those plugins. And then I have a whole toolkit of tools, and I'll show you some of these too. Different things like this tool extracts metadata and descriptions from URLs. If you want to kind of see the metadata in the page, like the page title, page description. Page speeds insights is for testing your performance, and especially mobile performance of your pages, and that's really important. The wave accessibility tool. So this is to test accessibility. The contrast checker, that's a color tool to help you test the contrast between colors so you can meet those minimum guidelines for accessibility. Color space is a color tool that you can punch in, say, like one of your brand colors, and it gives you a whole complementary palette. That's really nice if you want to make your new website have some new colors and things. Embed responsively is a tool for embedding content like slideshows and videos. Say you have a YouTube video or a Vimeo video or a slideshow, and you want to embed it and make it mobile friendly and responsive. That's a tool for that. Andy is the accessibility tool that the actual government makes available. Here's an online whiteboard and collaboration tool that's free. I don't use this a ton because I have a kind of an expensive paid tool I use, but this is a great tool for the planning stage for sitemaps and kind of getting the structure of your site down. And then I just showed you that Wayback Machine. So these are just some of the tools that are really handy for redesigns, and we'll use some of those as I demonstrate things, and we'll go through that. So reviewing your current site. And if you have any questions about analytics, what you want to pay attention to, or anything specific to your situation, of course, feel free to put in a question. I want to make this very interactive. So analytics, the major things you want to look at when you're planning for your redesign is you want to look at how is your current site used, right? So you want to look at things like your top pages, especially pay attention to the entry pages. Many times the main entry page of your website is the home page if someone's Googling you, but other times, it's going to be those other pages. So if you have several other pages people are entering in your website on, pay attention to what those are. You may want to, retain a lot of that content because it must be working for you if that's how people are finding you. You want to look at your events and goals too. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, in Google Analytics, there's an area for goals. And a lot of people, I look at their account, it's not even turned on. So definitely set up goals for your site. Things like, contact us, things like downloads, things like clicking on a donate button or donating, or any events you want like that. You can, video plays. If you have a video on your about page and you want to see how many people have clicked that and played it, you can track all that in Google Analytics, but it has to be set up in sort of a custom fashion. So if you can, make sure your current analytics account is tracking all those things you care about. The nice thing about that is then you have a baseline. And so when you redesign your site, you'll know, oh, okay, well, we redesigned the donation page and now we're getting more donations, right? So that was a step in the right direction. And pay attention to the user flow too. Like I said, how people enter, where people leave, how many pages are people looking at, how much time do they spend on the site? And you have to look at that and really kind of measure that stuff. And then your search engine visibility. So that would be, what keywords do you show up for? Are there important keywords that you want to show up for that you're not? That's a sign you'll need a lot more content in the new site, related to those keywords. And you can find that stuff through many tools. We use SEMrush mostly, but that is kind of an expensive paid tool. A free tool is Google Search Console. If you don't have that set up, definitely get Google Search Console set up. That is basically your sort of window into the Google world, right? When it relates to your website. How many of your website pages are actually in the Google index? What keywords are you showing up for? How many times per month are you showing up in search results? All of that data is in Google Search Console. So definitely, if you don't have that set up, check that out, get that set up. Thanks for the poll. I'm going to switch the poll again here. I have quite a few polls. So here's one about analytics, if you have this stuff set up. So beyond analytics, when you're looking at your current site, highly recommended if you can to also do a UX review, sort of the design, right? Um, so that would be beyond kind of what analytics tracks. So Google Analytics, when you load a web page, it's tracking that page view. It's tracking where that user came from. Did they come from social? Did they find you organically? That kind of stuff. But if people are clicking on a button that leaves the site, or if they're interacting with a map, or say they're clicking on your logo, but your logo isn't actually linked to anything and they think it should bring them back to the home page, like UX reviews like that, how far people scroll down in a page, that stuff is generally not tracked in sort of Google Analytics or most tools. So this is a tool called Crazy Egg that we use. We always put that on a site before we redesign it to see if there are UX design issues, right? Do you have things that are buttons but don't look enough like buttons, so no one's clicking up? Or do you have an area of your site, a design element that isn't a button, but it kind of looks like it, so people are clicking on it? So, and how far are people scrolling? Do you have a really important call to action on the page, but people don't scroll far enough to see it? Most people. So, and this separates mobile too. There's desktop views and mobile views. And so it gives you a really good idea of how the site's actually used, the UX, the design. So this is an important thing, I would say, to look at before you embark down the process of redesigning. You want to keep what's working and rework the things that are not working. So it looks like we've got in the polls, we have, it looks like only 17% of you said you're keeping on top of analytics and have goals and events set up. That's actually typically what I find is very few people have this all really dialed in and set up ahead of time. So a couple of people said, what is a custom event? So that would be the things I mentioned, like say you have a donate button and it leaves your website. By default, that's not tracked in Google Analytics because that's not a page load on your website. That's someone leaving. So with Google Tag Manager, you can set up a custom event, call it whatever you want, donation button click or whatever. And then you can use that tool, Tag Manager, to track that button, and Tag Manager will feed those clicks into analytics. So you can see not only when someone gets to a page, but when they click the button that leaves your site, you can see that too. So that's kind of what these custom events are. The last thing to really evaluate your current site is, I would say, look at feedback. So what have people said? What do people like? What do people not like? Ask internal people, but also ask, external people if you can too. Oh, we have a question. Awesome. Thank you. So what does the redundant link error mean? So redundant link means that you have two links and they're very close together and they go to the same place. So a common thing would be, let's say you have a news section. You have a news section and the title of the little article or blog post or whatever is linked. And then at the bottom of the little description, maybe you have a description that says read more and you have that link. Those two go to the same place and they're redundant. They're very close to each other. For humans, just with normal vision, normal hearing, just using a normal computer, that isn't the end of the world, but it is actually problematic for accessibility because a common function that someone who's blind will use on their device is they'll press a button that says, read all the links on the web page. Just give me all the links. So if I hear a link I want to go to, like about us or donate, I can go there, right? So what that system is going to do is read those two links one after another over and over. So if you have a web page, say you have a news page and it lists all these news articles, say it has 20, and you have the picture for the article is linked, the title's linked, and you have a read more for each article, they all go to the same place. That is going to be incredibly irritating for someone using a screen reader because it's going to go through and read three of the same links over and over and over. So that is what redundant link means. Not the largest of the accessibility issues, but definitely can be very frustrating for people using screen readers. So it looks like half of you are planning a full redesigns, and that is actually common. Usually people kind of say, okay, the site's old, let's just redo the whole thing. Some saying are partial, some saying you're adding new sections. So about a third of you said you're really adding new features or content. So another tool you may want to use if you want to collect really good feedback on your current site is this tool called Hotjar, and check it out. Hotjar isn't extremely inexpensive. It's a little bit more expensive than Crazy Egg, but if you've ever been on a website and a thing pops up and it says, was this page useful? Or rate this page, smiley face or sad face, or can you not find what you're looking for? Tell us what you want. All of those sort of polling and surveying things that happen in a site, a lot of times that's powered by Hotjar. So check that out. That is a really great tool. I've used it on many sites. And this is kind of just a little decision grid we have for types of redesigns, how you decide what do you want to do. So, if these things have changed, if you have a new mission or service, if your market positioning is changing, if you have new competitors, or if you've merged with another organization, or if you have totally different goals, do you have a new program you need to fill, or do you have a new capital campaign, or have the goals changed? So it's just a little decision thing we go through, thinking about, well, what kind of redesign do I really need, right? So types of redesigns, just some quick examples, right? Is a full redesign, you're just updating everything. So why would you want to do that? Well, a big change in mission, you merge with another organization, say you have a new logo, new name even, or branding, or let's say a platform update. So that's common. As sort of platforms get old and get out of date, like Drupal recently end of lifed a couple of their versions of Drupal, which is really bad if you're on Drupal, because if you're on that version, because that means there's no more support for it. So if a big security problem happens or there's an exploit, they're not going to help you fix it. So if you're switching platforms or updating, that's really, you almost pretty much need to do a full redesign at that point. Partial redesigns are nice. Say you have a new homepage. Say you had to kind of rush your previous redesign and you have a lot more programs or content or great things you want to feature, refreshing the homepage or refreshing the main navigation to add new sections or making an incremental improvement. That's common with, partial redesigns. Or, expanding the site. Say you had a staged approach. We ran out of budget for our site. We wanted to launch a new area. We had to wait and do it, in 6 months. That's another type of small redesign. Maybe you have a redesign for a specific topic, event, or seasonal thing, or you're adding new resources. So that's something to consider, what type of redesign.